Hello and welcome to Inspiration. Today we're going to have some fun. We're going to be doing some pose breakdowns. A pose breakdown. We're going to be breaking down our Bakasana. This is our crow posture. It's typically the first arm balance that we really begin to practice. And so I like to call it the conqueror of fear. Because we learn to get over the fear of falling as we do find our weight transitions into our hands. So my favorite way to get into our Bakasana is to find a Malasana squat. As we find this Malasana, we want to let the hips release towards the earth as we keep a nice firm foundation through the feet. We want to hug the low belly in, drawing the floating ribs together. Let the shoulders relax to maintain that length through the spine. Now maybe the elbows only come to the tops of the knees. They might come to the insides of the knees. We can begin to draw the thumbs to the heart center. This is a nice little Malasana squat. And so we take those hands down to the earth, and we want them about shoulder distance apart. And I like to have them on about 5 to 7 inches away from my feet. And then when we begin to transition that weight into our hands by lifting onto the balls of our feet. And that draws the knees nicely into the upper arms, and it can be anywhere above the elbow. And then gently the shoulders shift forward. That hug of the low belly continues, and we'll allow the elbows to begin to bend. Now as the elbows bend, you'll notice that the elbow begins to gently cross in front of the shin. And that just allows us to lift those feet off the earth without a whole lot of effort. We get to work that strength through the core, and we just let that transition shift forward. The elbows bend and those feet will begin to float off the earth. And it is all about that shifting of that body weight forward. If we find ourselves here and those shoulders keep falling towards the earth, you'll notice how my elbows are really far behind my wrists here. So if I shift that body weight forward, I get those elbows up and over those wrists. My feet begin to float off the earth. We feel that gentle lift through the mid and upper back, the knees squeezing into the arms, and we find the mobility through the toes to start to work those toes together. And as we continue to work that hug of the low belly, the ability to lift out of that foundation of our hands, we can begin to extend through the arms as well. So we'll find that shift forward, the elbows bend, that ability to float onto the hands. We want to continue to hug the low belly and lift through the mid and upper back. Try and keep the heels up towards those sit bones as we start to reach through the chest forward. Drawing those arms to extend, we continue to lift through the mid and upper back, and we'll continue to work the knees up the arms. Then we can float our way back into that Malasana, hugging that low belly and lengthening through the spine. And you'll feel how we really work through the inner hip flexors, through the core, the mid and upper back, and the triceps. So we want to find a few little stretches to counteract those. A lovely one is our Paschimottanasana. We just find that hinge at the hips with the legs extended. It encourages the stretch through the calves and the hamstrings and gently through the low back as we find that forward fold. Another wonderful one for this is we'll find our hero's pose. We gently draw the feet alongside the hips. We might find that we can sit on the feet a little bit. We'll just work a gentle stretch through the quadriceps. It just finds a little bit of comfort as we ground in that foundation. And then we can start to walk the hands back, finding that we start to work that length through the quadriceps as we find that maybe the elbows can release to the earth. We want to work the length through the spine and let ourselves relax into that foundation. We might even be able to relax all the way onto the earth. If so, finding that we can draw the hands above the head, opposite hand to opposite elbow. And then we can begin to work our way back up, the shoulders back up and over the hips, as we find ourselves taking a moment in our Shavasana. And it's nice to take a small break in our Shavasana as we find the intensity of our practice begins to increase. It just allows us to reduce our heart rate. Finding the breath continues to be comfortable. As we find ourselves having calmed the body, we can begin to work our way back up onto our sit bones by just rocking ourselves up. And we'll begin to find that we can step the feet back, we'll walk the hands forward. We're going to make our way into our downward dog. Another fun way to enter into our crow posture is through our headstand. A nice easy way to get into our headstand, release that tabletop, the forearms to the earth, the hands draw together. Now we'll just find that we can move into from our half headstand here as we just lock the feet in. Now what's really cool is we'll notice that we want to draw the hands to the earth. The shoulders and the elbows want to be in line. The elbows and the wrists like to be aligned. And we can just step the knees up onto our arms. And we can find that we can hug this here and just work that strength, release those feet back down, finding that balance. Maybe we find that knee up to those upper arms, and we begin to rock the sit bones back towards the wall behind us. We want to press into those fingertips, lift through the mid and upper back as we work the gaze forward, and find that we float up into that crow. And again, we can work to that extended arm as we find that lift out of our foundation. And then gently we can find the head begins to release back to the earth. Hugging the low belly in, we find that we step 1 foot back and gently to the earth, and we can release into our child's pose. And as we make our way up to our tabletop posture, drawing the shoulders up and over the wrists, we'll step the knees in under the hips, gently reaching those sit bones back to the heels. We'll swing the legs in front of us to a comfortable seated position. So I do hope you enjoyed those pose breakdowns today, the fun little transitions that we can play with in our practice. Thank you, and namaste.